This notion of cancel culture, you've been living it. You've been on the receiving end of it for years and years and years. That's real. And Democrats need to own up to that. They've got to mature about this.
And look, Aaron, those aren't the only times that we found that he used it. He also used it a lot on social media. Look at a few of these right here. You see there, that is a lot of use of Latinx by him for somebody who said that nobody in his office has ever used that phrase.
I honestly never imagined I'd witness the day when Gavin Newsom would actually let the truth slip from his lips. For those of you who've been following this channel, you already know we've spent plenty of time exposing and roasting the endless web of lies he's spun. Think back to his wild claims about the California wildfires. Yeah, that circus. But here's the real twist. In a clip that's now gone viral, Newsom suddenly switched gears and for the first time ever, admitted something real. Hard to believe, right? Stick around, because this moment is worth unpacking. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button before we dive in.
John Fetterman was in the news today. He said, we're talking about the Democratic Party, he said, if we don't get our shit together, we're going to be a permanent minority.
I agree.
And I see you're doing something about it. I applaud it. I think it's great. You've got this podcast. You're talking to people. You know, it's amazing to me that even that is controversial to some people. They call it platforming. If you talk to someone you don't agree with.
Yeah.
I feel like this country is divided into owners and healers. People think you can own the other side.
Even Bill Maher himself looked genuinely caught off guard when Gavin Newsom let that little truth bomb slip. You could almost see the hesitation on Maher's face. Just a split-second pause, right after Newsom uttered those two shocking words, "I agree." Now, let's be real for a moment. Nobody expected honesty from California's slick, polished governor. We all tuned in anticipating the usual parade of excuses, polished deflections, and political spin. But instead, Maher cut straight to the chase, declaring the Democratic Party is teetering on the verge of collapse. And here's the jaw-dropper. Newsom didn't deny it. Yes, Gavin, the man who has built his entire career on sugarcoating disasters, actually nodded along. He admitted the party is in real trouble. That moment alone felt like a confession delivered under oath. But what makes this even more remarkable is that it wasn't the only moment of honesty. Newsom wasn't dodging questions, he wasn't lecturing the audience, and he wasn't wagging his finger with self-righteous
Make a great case. You know, I saw
Instead,
you debating
he was
DeSantis.
simply
I said,
agreeing.
you know, I'm
And
trying
when
to
a
get this guy to
man
run for
known
president for a long
professional
time.
denial suddenly starts conceding, you know the cracks in the carefully built facade are finally beginning to show.
Gavin Newsom owned DeSantis.
Yeah.
DeSantis destroyed Gavin Newsom.
Yeah.
Or people who want to talk and heal. And I feel like the next president's going to be, at least if it comes from this party, the Democratic Party, someone who wants to talk and heal. And I feel like we're doing that.
Honestly, I can't bring myself to believe, even for a second, that Gavin Newsom's shiny new podcast is about honest conversation or national healing. Come on, it's politics, not therapy hour. What I see is a carefully staged audition for the big prize he's been eyeing all along, the presidency in 2028. Think about it. Newsom is painfully aware that his image in California has taken hit after hit, soaring homelessness, businesses fleeing the state, devastating wildfires, rolling blackouts, you name it. Now he's attempting a full rebrand. He wants to scrub away that slick, over-polished, and overconfident persona and replace it with the image of a Democratic healer, the man who can supposedly unify a fractured nation. Every move feels calculated, every word feels scripted, and it reeks of political theater. To me, it's pure hypocrisy. He's not here to mend divisions or solve real problems. He's here to polish his resume and sell himself for higher office. But I want to hear from you. Does anyone really buy Gavin Newsom as America's therapist-in-chief? Or is this just another performance meant to disguise his track record?
Really been interesting, the reaction to the podcast. I mean, we had some controversial figures on, I'll acknowledge that, and Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and some others. But you're right. I mean, this idea that we can't even have a conversation with the other side.
You have to. They won.
Thank you. That's it, bottom line. And by the way, or the notion we just have to continue to talk to ourselves, or we're in the same damn echo chamber. These guys are crushing us. The Democratic brand is toxic right now.
Hold on a second. Did Gavin Newsom just admit that the Democratic Party is toxic? Because that's exactly how it sounded. And honestly, I'm floored. You all heard it straight from the horse's perfectly gelled mouth. The irony here is almost comical. The Democratic Party didn't stumble into unpopularity by accident. Much of it comes from politicians like Newsom himself. Leaders more obsessed with photo ops, polished speeches, and endless virtue
because
signaling
that's exactly
than
what it
actually
sounded
rolling
like.
up
And
their
honestly,
sleeves to
I'm
govern.
stunned. You all heard it straight from the
California
horse's
stands as a
perfectly
prime
gelled
example
mouth. The
of
irony here
failed
is almost
leadership
laughable.
under his
The
watch.
Democratic Party has become
And yet, here he is, suddenly acknowledging the decay inside his own party. That's rich, isn't it? It's like the arsonist showing up at a burning building and saying, "Wow, this place really burned down, huh?" If Newsom is genuinely ready to call out toxicity, maybe the first place he should look is right in the mirror.
We had a high water mark 2 weeks ago, and that was a CNN poll at 29% favorability. It's dropped in the NBC poll down to 27%. It's one thing to make noise, but you also have to make sense. And I think with this podcast and having the opportunity to dialogue with people I disagree with, it's an opportunity to try to find common ground and not take cheap shots. I'm not looking to put a spoke in the wheel of their, or at least a crowbar in the spokes of their wheel to trip them up, to your point. And I think it's important. Democrats, we tend to be a little more judgmental than we should be.
Have you noticed how Gavin Newsom keeps slipping his podcast into the conversation like it's some casual afterthought? That's classic Gavin, sneaky, slick, and always subtly selling himself. It's a perfect little window into who he really is, polished, smooth, and the textbook definition of a modern Democrat. All talk, no action. He'll circle around a problem, drown everyone in flawless, rehearsed lines, and yet, at the end of the day, nothing actually changes. And did anyone else catch that tiny, almost hidden jab he threw in? Because it sounded a lot like a dig at Kamala Harris. If there's anyone in the party who has truly mastered the art of speaking without substance, it's Kamala. She can weave the longest, most convoluted sentence and somehow manage to say absolutely nothing. Maybe Gavin was being sly, or maybe it was an accidental Freudian slip. But either way, it revealed the cracks in the facade. Even the party's golden children are beginning to turn on one another.
This notion of cancel culture, you've been living it. You've been on the receiving end of it for years and years and years. That's real. And Democrats need to own up to that. They've got to mature about this.
If Gavin Newsom is suddenly feeling the urge for accountability, he'd better start by owning up to the destruction he's unleashed on California since stepping into the governor's office. You can't go on national TV, point fingers at Democrats for the 2024 defeat, and lecture your own party about responsibility while pretending your own record is flawless. That's hypocrisy at its finest. California under Newsom has become a cautionary tale. Skyrocketing homelessness. Let's be clear. Gavin Newsom isn't just a bystander to California's decline. He's its architect. Until he admits that, every word he utters about accountability is just empty political theater. He's not only responsible for the state's downward spiral, but also shares blame for the Democratic Party's apparent implosion. Remember when he outright denied ever using the term Latinx? Watch closely. These moments reveal the gap between rhetoric and reality.
Latinx. Just 2 weeks ago, here's what he said about it.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree?
where did that even
No
go?
more
I'm
Latinx, everybody.
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
But there was a person who used Latinx. It was actually a really important person. It was him.
I hope we can really paint a picture in terms of our consciousness of how impactful this has been on the Latinx community. The Latinx and Black communities. You've got politicians that are banning not assault rifles, but the word Latinx. They're not even serious.
Now you can see why I was genuinely taken aback when Gavin Newsom finally let a hint of the truth slip out. This is a man so deeply addicted to spin and deception that we've all been conditioned to expect nothing but lies, no matter the cameras, no matter the evidence staring him in the face. That's the Newsom playbook. Deny, deflect, distract. Californians have lived with the consequences of that routine for years. Homelessness skyrocketing, businesses closing, crime rising, and people fleeing the state in droves. Yet somehow, he still smiles for the cameras, acting like everything is perfect. That's why hearing him admit even a tiny fragment of truth felt like spotting a unicorn wandering downtown San Francisco. At the end of the day, Gavin Newsom isn't a true leader. He's more like a scam artist in a tailored suit, selling polished illusions while his state slowly crumbles behind him. And just to add a final twist, that wasn't even the only time he threw out the term Latinx.
And look, Aaron, those aren't the only times that we found that he used it. He also used it a lot on social media. Look at a few of these right here. You see there, that is a lot of use of Latinx by him for somebody who said that nobody in his office has ever used that phrase.
Credit where it's due. Bill Maher deserves serious props for finally getting Gavin Newsom to drop the mask and admit a sliver of truth for the first time in his career. That's no small achievement. Newsom is usually as polished and scripted as a Hollywood teleprompter. But Maher managed to corner him into confessing what the rest of us have known all along. Maybe that's exactly why so many top Democrats avoid Maher's show altogether. They know he's not going to coddle them with soft questions or let them endlessly spin talking points. He presses, he prods, and eventually he makes them squirm or outright confess. For a party built on optics and carefully curated narratives, that kind of pressure is dangerous territory. And if Maher can crack the seemingly untouchable Gavin Newsom, just imagine what would happen if he put the rest of the Democratic elite on the hot seat. Moments like this don't just expose truths. They reveal the cracks in an entire political facade.
I was on KBLA yesterday, with my friend Tavis Smiley. I'm an investor and a supporter of that station. And he said, "Who do you want for running president?" I mentioned, "I think you'd be good at the job." Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state.
Even with this sudden, rare burst of honesty from Gavin Newsom, I seriously doubt he stands a chance at the presidency if he chooses to run. Let's be honest, his track record in California is nothing short of disastrous. Under his leadership, the Golden State has become a cautionary tale. Homelessness skyrocketing, crime spiraling out of control, businesses fleeing by the dozens, and families crushed under the weight of unbearable taxes and living costs. That hardly looks like the resume of a future. If he thinks America is buying what he's selling, he's in for a rude awakening. Bill Maher may have coaxed a sliver of truth out of him, but one confession doesn't erase years of lies, failures, and political theater. Newsom's polished image, empty podcast preaching, and progressive agenda might impress elites, but they fall flat with the public. If this is the Democratic Party's so-called future star, then the party's problems run even deeper than we imagined. Newsom isn't the solution, he's the symptom. That brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.